028.
Milton Burbank. Your question can't be 10 minutes long. Just go.
I can't make a speech?
No.
Okay. I wish I could address every issue that I'm here to talk about tonight, but I can't because we're limited in time. But I'd like to say in response to Virgil, and Virgil's my friend, and I'm saying this respectfully, you said we have to do something about the roads, that they have to have these taxes for these roads. I respectfully say, no, we do not. ODOT was $1 billion off somewhere, is what I read. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. The
With
ODOT has
$1
managed to
billion
lose $1 billion.
With a $1 billion shortfall, how in the world can you say we want more money for an agency that has already wasted $1 billion? And with that, I'd like to say that we are currently spending $700 million for the homeless people in Oregon. You have the money to do whatever you need for fire, for the firefighters, and for the roads without adding any more money.
Did you want one of us to respond to that? Did you want a response from any of us on that?
Yes.
Okay, who would you like to respond on? All of them?
Take your choice.
Go ahead.
Thank you. No, I know, we'll keep it short. Not only did they misplace $1 million, but they've also been overcharging on the weight mile tax for the truckers, right? And so when we talk about the issues, it's more expensive for the apple that's grown in Hood River, for the people that live in our district in Brookings, than it is for the people that live in Roseburg, or the people that live in Portland. And so the cookie cutter does not work. There are, my senator colleague, Bruce Starr, is on the transportation committee. He has been asked to look into ODOT and find the waste. And so I leave it to him to look into all of that waste for us, and then come back to my caucus and advise us on waste.
Hey, I have something to add to that, actually. So I sit on the Joint Ways and Means Subcommittee for Transportation. And when it comes to waste at ODOT, you're absolutely correct. There's a tremendous amount of waste at ODOT. One of the things that really pissed me off when we were in the committee was we found out that they spent $70 million studying tolling, just studying it. And then after studying it, they decided it's too politically controversial and we'll get too many backlash from the residents in Portland. We're not gonna go ahead with tolling. And that's after they had spent $70 million researching it. So there's tons of waste at ODOT, and you're absolutely correct. They should be able to find that money within ODOT and within other government agencies. Thank you.
Well, we're gonna move on to the next question.
So we can't respond to that?
You can.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, we'll keep it going. So I took Governor T upriver in 1988, second time. And real quick story, paddle was floating down the river, went back, he wanted to get it, and I'm gonna really abbreviate here. But we grabbed it, threw it in the back of the boat, took him back to Gold Beach. He sent me a picture just a couple months later. He had it very nicely choreographed, said, up the creek without a paddle award. He would present it that year to the department head who was guilty of wasting the most money. He said, I wanted to give it to the ODOT guy, but the son of a gun resigned before I could award him. The point is this, we have 33 departments in the state of Oregon. Every one of them are not held accountable. I'm not saying they all are wasting $1 billion, but the waste that we witness in the state of Oregon, it's not just homeless spending, although that's a very good point. The amount of money that our state government wastes, that we try to stop, try to avoid, try to prevent. When there's a problem, just spend more. Just spend more. So that's why, when it comes to budget, we're right in that. The only thing I want to caution us on is being a little bit careful, because when it comes to rural Oregon, we need the highway funds as much or more than Metropolitan. So we're gonna be watching real close. Virgil, thank you for that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Jerry, your next question.
Alrighty, next lucky winner is, last four is 6010. Here we go.
The only reason I'm trying to make things happen fast, just so I'm not trying to rush through any answers, I just want more people to be able to ask questions. I'd like you guys, this is your time. We do this every day. We want you guys to ask
You should
questions.
ask them why they're doing what they're doing.
Alright, hi. I just wanted to address Senator Smith. I know that recently you had, some legislation that you were putting forth about vote by mail. I am somebody that when, my very first time voting was in 1998, in the election where Oregon voted to turn to vote by mail. And at that time, I wasn't really that concerned about it either way. Yes, I'll get there. I will take my time. And it has become more and more obvious to me how important vote by mail is. Not just for me, but for people like my grandmother. For people who work all day. And I just want to know what you're going to do to protect our right to vote by mail.
Well, you should have
The
that
short answer is
option.
to continue pushing forward to get Senate Bill 210 passed, so that it gives you the right by mail to vote on whether or not you want to reaffirm that right.
I already did.
So the reason why I'm moving forward with the legislation, and I appreciate Senator Jama, who's the joint, the Senate majority leader, for finally, because I've actually put forward that bill in 2023, put forward that bill in 2024, even though others might want to take credit for it. And we finally got a hearing, is because vote by mail has changed since you passed it and we passed it in 1998. Now we have motor voter that has put forward people that as soon as you renew your driver's license, you're now automatically registered to vote. That wasn't there when we passed vote by mail in the late 90s. When you register for OHP and through OHA, you're now registered to vote as well, and that wasn't there. And so there's many reasons why we want to put forward the initiative to go ahead and refer it to the voters. You shouldn't be so afraid of it, because you get to vote by mail to reaffirm to vote by mail. It's actually a really great idea.
Democracy.
It's democracy in action. So that's how I'm gonna protect it.
We just heard a little profanity here, so I just wanna caution everybody, that's not gonna work, I don't think, so just please be very careful.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's keep moving forward. This is
Oh, we need new batteries?
6004. Going once, twice. 6011. 6011.
How are you?
One of the things I really would like to know is why the hell you guys are so afraid of voting by mail?
I'm gonna take a quick shot at that. I'm not afraid of voting by mail. I think the issue isn't the vote by mail. The issue is the validity of the vote by mail, okay?
That's right.
And so I am in
What
favor
is the
of,
validity, please?
well, let me answer your question to the best I can tell you. I think that we need to verify who you are to vote by mail.
You already
Now,
did.
now, we also, within that bill, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not that familiar, I haven't read the bill, but I believe it does have a provision in it to allow you to continue to vote by mail if you choose to do that.
Yes.
So if this, for whatever reason, if it does pass, and you decide that, you for whatever reason, you just basically have to request a ballot and get mailed to you. This is not an end all. I think this is just a step to try to make sure that our elections are honest and open.
It's a correct.
But it would also require you to, have, your ID in order for you to receive your ballot.
Ooh, they already gave their idea, they got it at the
So here's what we're gonna do. Here's how we're gonna handle this. Thank you for your opinion. And I gave you mine, and I'm sure everybody probably understands. I'm sorry?
David started to add to it as well.
Okay, let's let this question go so that we can get to the next person. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I already answered the vote by mail question.
Yeah, okay. Okay, do you feel satisfied that you got your question answered?
No, sir.
Okay, well, I don't have
Don't worry
any more
about it.
answer.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I know where you stand.
All right, thank you.
Next one is 6009. Six zero zero nine. Too bad there was a copy card with that one. 6012.
Okay. Oh, thank you, gentlemen. I have two quick questions. One is local and one spreads out to Oregon. The local one, a lot of people you up there didn't know, in the last 6 years, fees, taxes here locally in Roseburg and in the county have gone up 50% to 300%. Very few people who make under $100,000 nowadays can even think about being able to build on a piece of property that they own in this county or in the city anymore. The taxes are so outrageous. We're talking, it will cost you almost $30,000 now just to get the infrastructure in before you lay the first brick. It's ridiculous. Now, here's my question. Money for homeless. Well, we don't have money for homeless. We all know that. And it's ways whether or not. State of Oregon used to make 21% of its entire income off of timber. We make 5% now. You know that. A lot of people don't. Why? Well, timber industry has been going down for 30 years. The same people have been in power for 30 years. They're the same people who have been destroying the timber industry. Here's the kicker. We need to protect our ability to be able to get timber to the mills. We have ONC lands that we can't harvest on. We have ONC lands that are getting stolen, like the Elliott Forest, stolen, and we can't harvest on those. The ONC is supposed to take care of the counties. It's supposed to pay for our schools. It's supposed to pay for our police. It's supposed to pay for everything. They cannot pay for that unless we can start getting our federal lands, especially the ONC, back to us. So what I'd like you gentlemen here, especially the Elliott Forest, Mr. Boyce, is if sometime in the near future, we can, assuming we can get through all the other BS bills going through, if we can put a bill through to start suing the people who are suing us every single time a piece of timber lot comes up for sale, we're getting sued and closed, it's getting closed out so we can't harvest it. We need to start suing those out-of-state people who are suing us so we can get these, so we can drop the price of timber, so we can get housing built for people who don't make $200,000. So I would like you, if I can, to keep in mind and maybe do just a notch higher out of getting our timber money, 16% of it that's gone away, back to us by opening our timber back to us, and yes, build new mills if we have to.
Okay, so, I didn't hear a question in there, Richard, but, I did hear some suggestions. So the ONC lands, 18 counties in the state, they have roughly 1.2 billion board feet grown every year. We only harvest about 150 million board feet, 147. I think that's changing under the Trump administration with what's moving forward. You're right, the environmental for-profit nonprofits will file lawsuits to stop federal logging sales. It's unfortunate. I and my Senate Republican leader, Daniel Bonham, drafted and passed the Good Neighbor Authority bill in 2018, which then allows the USFS to partner with ODF so that we can move forward on a lot of those timber projects on federal lands. When it comes to the Elliott State Forest, I don't need that discussion because of the loggerheads that we had with the environmental for-profit nonprofits and the ability to harvest that land base. We have agreed upon a harvest land base of between 17 and 22 million board feet. We're finally gonna get logs and logs out, jobs in. That is a win-win in that situation. I know some don't agree, but we don't have the gavels, right? We don't have the gavels. So we can't file lawsuits, right? It's up to the individuals and the individuals that are frankly impacted, you and a coalition of Oregonians. I mean, I had Dave Rayfield in my office last week. He needed a meeting because I'm on the Public Safety Subcommittee and his budget comes through my committee. So he wanted to come and talk to me about his budget. And I said, listen, you need to stop charging the agencies, ODF, water resources for doing work, and your department needs to be the state's attorney across the board. And he actually agrees, which was a thumbs up for me later when we did a picture on it.
Did you get that right?
We did. So, my point is, there's lots of things moving forward, and I think, especially in the federal administration, I think the environmental community sees that you can't talk about climate change when we're burning up our forests and we're not doing we're not sequestering, because it's really God's gift to the planet, the carbon sequestration that sequesters the carbon, turns it into the most resilient building material on the planet, and with a byproduct that's oxygen, right? So.
Well, what do you don't think?
Okay, here we go, guys. If you wanna just give me 1 minute here. The red is a part of Oregon that the federal government owns. That's not only unproductive land, it's a liability. In my county alone, in 2 fires in 2017 and 18, we spent almost $170 million to suppress those 2 fires. Guess what? They wouldn't even let us harvest the burnt timber. If you don't harvest the timber, you can't pay for reforestation. So it sits there 6-7 years later, going to waste, destroying our watershed. Richard, I'm glad you brought up ONC. I'm glad you brought up the Elliott Forest. Here's a letter I have working with the Trump administration. The ONC timber, as Senator Rocksmith just mentioned, we're actually using about 220 million, I think. But the point is, we're only harvesting 1/4 or 1/5 of what is growing. The rest of it's going to waste. We wonder why we can't support our law enforcement, our schools. It's mind-boggling that we've allowed this to happen the last 30 or 40 years. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you,
And
Cory.
it keeps happening.
All right, next one is 6027. 6027.
You made the claim that there is an $8 trillion investment made nationwide. Do you have that in writing? And also, I want to claim $8.5 billion was for Oregon in the CHIPS Act that the Trump administration is trying to claw back.
Which tax, I'm sorry?
The CHIPS Act.
CHIPS Act, okay? So,
$8.5 billion is coming to Oregon.
That isn't,
Yeah, that's not
that's
accurate.
not accurate.
No.
So there's, well, no, just the CHIPS Act. Actually, Oregon did not get any of those CHIPS Act dollars, because they, prior to the Trump administration, because they just failed to win the bid.
Well, we only put, was it 20?
We put 300 million aside for it, but,
State money.
we were hoping, Ohio, I think, got the original investment.
So we lost that money.
And then we were hoping to get the manufacturing, or the packaging, I think, side.
And I'll be honest with you, the CHIPS Act was it did create a lot of investment, but Southern Oregon, where we live right here, we're not really affected that much. We don't create semiconductors. I wish we did, because it would be a great boon for our industry, but, anyway, let's move on to the next question. So, sorry, go ahead, Gordon.
Thank you. On the 8 trillion, I'll be glad to get you an inventory of that. It's, car companies, it's, foreign investment, it's people wanting to come and do manufacturing jobs in the United States of America. I couldn't be more excited about it. But I do, if you want a valid vetting on that, I'll be happy to get with you and make sure. Thank you for the question.
Okay, go ahead, Trent.
All right, 6023.
Yeah, I'll keep this real short and sweet. You guys say that the biggest problem is that there's a budget shortfall, and then you also say that you don't want to raise taxes. So if you're trying to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, what are your suggestions for actually meeting those shortfalls instead of just going after Democrats?
So, let me start.
So there's a budget shortfall because we spend a ton of money, like an absolute ton of money on things like homelessness, things like environmental studies. There's a lot of money that's just outright wasted. And I think we should put that money towards things like infrastructure and towards funding government employees and things like that.
What infrastructure bill have you brought?
I'm sorry.
What infrastructure bill have you brought?
Well,
You just said infrastructure, so what bill have you brought to say
well,
that?
Can we answer your first question first,
Yes,
please?
please.
Yes.
So I don't blame Democrats. I blame agencies. The agencies in this state, DEQ, pick an agency. They spend the money. Who directs that? Those agencies are beholden to the government. And right now, I will tell you, in the state of Oregon, both legislative chambers, more bills are being passed that are agency bills, and a lot more than what it is that either Democrats or Republicans are putting through. In fact, the number of bills Democrats are putting through compared to the number, it's like 20% of the bills are Republican bills, 30% I think are Democrat bills, the rest are all the governor's bills. Those go as agency bills, which are committee bills. What I would say the best thing to do to cut the spending is to give a haircut to the agencies. You gotta understand that the COVID money, when it came in, no, it's not a small.
No.
When the COVID money came in, when the federal government started supporting Oregon, our agencies grew exponentially. I mean, a lot. They come in front of our committees and we get asks for $20 million for this agency, DEQ, I don't even know how many millions they've asked for. And all DEQ does is find businesses. That's their intent. That's what pays their bills. So when those agencies come and they get that money, and they get it because Democrats on the committee, I'm sorry, I don't have a problem with Democrats, but Democrats on the committees allow those bills to go through. We don't vote for them. But once they get that money, there you go. Let's say you've got 10 employees in an agency, which is far, far fewer than what in reality. But let's say you have 10, and a lot of that's paid by COVID federal money. The federal money is gone. So that means the agencies can't even afford to exist the way they are. So when all of a sudden now they have to grow, guess who pays for that? Your taxes. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. I'm not here to fight about that. I'm here to keep us from paying higher taxes.
Yeah.
So we, as a member of Ways and Means, we can't be everything to everyone. The state's budget is doubled in about 12 years. Excuse me, I'm like cold. We have been, roughly a third of the state's budget is federal funds. When you look at the, now, mind you, a lot of that is Medicare, Medicaid. We invest where we can in federal funding, and we get a 4-to-1 or a 1-to-7, return, 1-to-10 return back. But I think it was 2021, we had covered Oregon. It was at that point, it was a $90 million bill for the state of Oregon. Now it's now it's a $900 million bill for the state of Oregon. And so when you look at DEQ's budget alone has doubled in the last 6 to 8 years. But we don't get any, we aren't getting any better service out of DEQ. And the same could be true for the Department of State Lands, DLCD. I mean, Department of Land Conservation and Development. When have you seen the D part of the DLCD agency? In fact, I do craft legislation. Of all the 4,000 bills, 182 of them are mine. 63 are still in play. But you have a situation where I also craft amendments to other legislation to make bad bills less bad, or try to at least have a conversation about how they need to be better. But to your question, we have a serious problem in the state government because it has grown exponentially, and we are having people, because of higher taxes, because of the cap. Remember the corporate activity tax that was passed in 2019? It was passed in 2019 because it was gonna fund education. Well, we already had general fund dollars funding education, and this was supposed to be not instead of, but on top of. Well, then the majority party, the Democrats, took away some of those general fund dollars that were funding education and supplanted the cap to fund, and then spent those dollars elsewhere. We have roughly $951 million in what we call excess money that is not spent right now in the Ways and Means framework as of today. We'll have a May forecast to decide how those dollars are going to be spent. One of my priorities is ensuring that $35 million for the third veterans home for Roseburg stays in the next biennial budget. That we have the resources with the interest, and that we have those resources here. But we cannot continue to be everything to everyone.
Revenue problem versus a spending problem. I follow a program by the name of Common Sense Institute. This is to give you a basic idea of where the spending goes and how it's changed in the last 20 years. The 2001-3 biennium versus the 23-25 biennium. Education, 18%. Administration, 14%. I'll just give you some of here. Economic and community development is down to 7.5% compared to 12% 20 years ago. Health and human services has gone up to 45%, almost half of our budget. It can't be sustained. The government, the federal government, I don't think is coming to save us.
Taxes are for.
Now, please don't interrupt. I'll be glad to wait for your question. The federal government's not coming to rescue us. We want our share compared to other states, but how do we get our share? We have to negotiate. We have to prove that we will conduct our system of government that protects the citizens from crime, that protects the citizens from overtaxation, that makes people want to stay in Oregon. As we watch businesses leave this state, it's got to be stopped. I think we're the group to help them do our part. Thank you.
All right, next lucky winner, 6017. 6017. Right here. Oh, sorry.
see, so many choices.
So I'm gonna pick the one that has to do with economic development. Based on the tenuous economic status of many households in your districts, and I'm gonna, since I actually live in House District 2 and the Senate District for Rock Smith, this will be directed at you too. That where 44 to 50% of families below the ALICE threshold. ALICE is a survey done by United Way, not our local United Way, but another United Way. And that combines the poverty level and those with income above the poverty level, but not an ability to cover basic living expenses all the time. And in House District 2, it's one of the highest in the state of Oregon. It's actually the third worst district for this, it's 50% here. So, besides timber, because I'm gonna tell you, the last town hall meeting I was in this chamber with was Jeff Cruz and Dallas Hurd. And I heard the same stale argument about timber, the salvation. So let's avoid the timber solution. What are you doing as our elected representatives to help improve the economic well-being of residents? This means with permanent living wage jobs and benefits, affordable housing, access to health care, and healthy local food.
That's a good question, and I'll go ahead and start. I'm sure Senator Smith will have some more, but let's just back up for a second. First off, I don't know that was really a question. That was more like a comment of a bunch of things that. So I'm gonna address.
She asked you a question.
Are you ready for me to address it, or are you going to talk over top of me? I can do either one.
And stop.
Okay. Here's the issue. The issue with housing and the affordability of housing, and we can argue this all day long. I'm not going to argue this. Housing is expensive because we have a housing shortage. The reason we have a housing shortage is because we have the most restrictive building rules and I sat on the planning commission for the county. I was the chair of the planning county commission. So you can't convince me that I'm wrong on this because I know the laws. And the fact is, you can't build in the wetlands, okay? And if you look at a map, if you take the time to look at a map of what Douglas County looks like, particularly what Roseburg looks like, you'll find that the majority of the properties that are available to develop have wetlands on them. And folks that stop the building on wetlands are the same folks that want to raise your taxes. So once we have an inventory of housing, which I'm trying daily to get, and some folks don't agree with some of the decisions I've made to try to make that happen, and I won't go into that either right now, but once we have an inventory of housing, where we have, let's call it an abundance, which we don't have, we probably never will have, you'll see the price of housing go down. Now, do we have a homeless problem? Heck yeah, we have a homeless problem. The question is, why do we have a homeless problem? Is the homeless problem because, I think it's a tough one to answer. I think we looked at things like Measure 110, where we allowed people to use drugs on the street unpunitable. We didn't care anymore. It's like, go ahead and use hard drugs. Well, we finally got that fixed. I think that's one piece of the pie. Do I think the state needs to do its part in helping the homeless? Absolutely, the state needs to do its part in helping the homeless, because we have a huge problem. I grew up here. I've lived here 56 years. When I was a kid, we didn't have homeless people. We may have had one or two folks walking around town talking to themselves, but it wasn't an issue. It is an issue, and you have to ask yourself, what changed? Well, I can tell you this. I don't have a difference to whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I'm going to continue to say that. I just don't really care. But I will tell you this, we've had 30 years of Democrat one-party rule in this state. And I have seen the homeless issue continue to grow. I have seen the drug issue continue to grow. I've seen the price of real estate go up. I've seen the inventory. The city of Sutherland, as of just a few months back, had absolutely zero rentals available. Zero. In the whole city. That's a problem. The only way to fix the problem is to get out of it, is to fix it. We need to build more houses. If you don't think that we're trying to get that done, then evidently the majority party that you're supporting, you need to go talk to them.
Yeah. Amen.
I'll be brief. Your question is, what are we trying to do to help with all of the things, economic development? I'm trying to get government out of the way, right? Because of the things that the representative said, land use laws in this state are some of the strictest in the country. We don't have a metro like Portland does, and I said earlier, they paved over the best farmland in the state now. You know, the environmental for profit nonprofits want to save everything else. You have a situation where, I mean, you have NeighborWorks Umpqua in the room today, a huge supporter. They do amazing work in this space, have legislation in this space. In 2013, I was able to get a $3 million USDA grant that would help deal with Curry County and Goose County that was facilitated by NeighborWorks Umpqua back then as a county commissioner, so that we can replace manufactured homes. Because in Curry County, half of the housing stock was manufactured homes, and half of that was pre-1980. So you have it was driven by a health assessment, because the majority of those individuals were low-income families, and they're using the emergency department as their primary care physician, right? And so I'm very familiar with the space, but we need to get government out of the way when it comes to housing. Rent control does not work, yet in the House, they're doubling down on rent control. Nobody wants to, there are no long-term rentals anymore, because the people cannot even deal with their housing and their roofs and their infrastructure that they need to replace, because they cannot recoup the resources to do so. I mean, my mother has 3 rentals in Port Orford, one of which, and she keeps the rents at $700 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. Because they're good renters, and that's what she wants to do, and I get her, she's an amazing woman. But you need to get government out of the way so that we can get these things done. For example, I have an economic development project that for a mining company that wants to mine out of Josephine County, owns the land, has the opportunity, will employ 150 people, and the Department of Geological Minerals and Industries won't give them a damn permit.
Yay!
Why?
So,
Boom!
Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna add a little bit.
Why is
When I
that
say,
good? I don't know.
Senator Smith
Maybe
says
the
we need to
lithium
find
mine's
funding.
okay.
I think sometimes that we look at this thing in such a small circle, when we don't realize it's not about that when we're in the House. When we're in committees, things are going. Remember what I told you? There's what, 1,600 and some odd bills left active. When those bills primarily, I'm just gonna say it, they're primarily Democrat bills, but it doesn't really matter. They are Republican bills. The committees are controlled by the majority party. Now, I'll just give you an example of how government gets in the way. So there was a bill, 2961, in the House Climate Energy Environment Committee, which I sit on. And this bill originally started, we were able to modify it a little bit, but it started out, it said we have to put charging stations in 50% of all of the new building. If it's more than 4, like if you're building an apartment, they want charging stations, not in the ground for future use, they want them installed. It was going to add $50,000 per door to do that, at 50% of the homes. Now what happens? Well, you've increased the price of buildings. Now, let's not even get into the side of this that talks about all the restrictions that we put on contractors. In 23, we passed the bill that said if a contractor paid a subcontractor, and the subcontractor didn't pay his subs, even though the contractor paid, the subs could go back and sue them. For 5 years, the subs could go back and sue the general contractor, even though they've been paid, or they would have been paid by the person that was in charge of payment. This is just one of the many reasons why government gets in the way. Now, that's 2 examples. There is hundreds just in this session. All of those cumulative together create roadblocks to being able to develop and make progress. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be doing all of the things. Betsy, frankly, I reached out to the Democrat Party here locally, and I got nothing.
When?
Nothing. Now, Dave and I have met, and we're making some progress. We're having discussions, and I encourage that. I think we should be discussing. We're gonna have more meetings, you're gonna have more of us involved in it, and whatever we can do to share problems in neighborhood works. Umpqua, they reached out to Alec, they reached out to me and David. These are good things, and we will continue to do those things. We can't solve the problems of the world tomorrow. but we can start working on it together. Let's go.
I just want to add, just real quick, because the 2961 bill,
Yeah.
Gama's bill. Yeah, so, what I love the fact that, that I am not hard right enough by my hard right Republicans, and I'm too Trump for my left constituents. It's great. But that's why I love to do what I do. And so, 2961 is a bill that I actually, Representative Wilde and I passed the base bill in 2021. And it was, when you build a new apartment complex, multifamily housing, you need to put the conduit and leave the space in the electrical box for a future charging station. Now Rep. Gamba, because he reached out to me over the weekend, and it passed, and it was a good bill, right? Now, mind you, what he's trying to do now is what he did for the city of Milwaukee when he was mayor there, becoming a state representative, which we allowed within the legislation we passed in 21 to leave local control of being able to do it. But that's not enough for him. My goodness, he's gonna mandate it statewide, and I'm gonna kill the bill in the Senate, is what I'm gonna do in my committee, his bill. But it's, because it's ridiculous, local control is there. But to Virgil's point, there's 100 of these things. And you know how many electric vehicles are out there? It's 2% of the cars on the road are electric. Why in the hell do you need 50% of the parking spots in a multifamily housing unit for electric vehicles when they're 2% of the population?
Okay, we're moving on.
It's a waste of money.
Time, clicking away. 6005.
I guess I'm gonna hold my question into addiction. And, you know, I mean, it kind of includes federal because SAMHSA has been destroyed, the funding through SAMHSA. And Oregon has an addiction crisis. And we sought an addiction treatment. It's gonna cost money. We have to invest in it. It includes mental health. It includes there was a study that only 30% of the population that is unsheltered is actually doing illicit substances. So it's not everybody that's unsheltered has addiction issues. And what are we gonna do? I mean, we have to have funding for that. And I know it costs money. I don't want my taxes to go up either. But we have to move forward with the addiction crisis. I mean, I can tell you from my experience of doing harm reduction, 110 had a small effect on addiction. It didn't have a huge impact. The addiction was here. And so I'm blaming 110 for our crisis. The crisis was here. And we sucked then, and we suck now. And how are we gonna improve? But we need mental health, we need addiction.
I appreciate the question. Totally agree with you, and as a member of the subcommittee on public safety, these are the discussions. I encourage you to look at my Senate Bill 881, which helps try to address some of this. I helped lead the Republicans in Senate Bill, House Bill 4002 in the 24 session. I kind of rewound Measure 110, repeal reform Measure 110. We have those cannabis dollars that are going out. We have great programs through ADAPT here, and I'm a huge supporter of the peer-to-peer support programs because they work. But we need transitional housing for those individuals as well. It's critically important. Bay Area First Step is a great program out of Coos County. In fact, and I had them on the Senate floor as my guests a month and a half ago. The problem is the Oregon Accountability Commission needs to be abolished. And so the dollars need to go through the CJC, the Criminal Justice Commission, and then come to the counties. So the counties that already deal with public and mental behavioral health programs can then create the MOUs and contracts with the service providers. And with a blessing from the OHA, and this is what 881 does, so that we can actually have boots on the ground and accountability to our residents. We will then wipe out what is being taken off the top from OHA and the OAC. And then I'll just end with, it was very frustrating to have OAC recently not put any money into the deflection programs. You have a fantastic drug court that works here in Douglas County and Roseburg.
Yep.
And thank you, Chief, for all of the efforts and partnership there. It is amazing. But we need to continue those type of programs, and we need to fund them. And we need to but we also need to hold the individuals accountable for the decisions that they're making to stay in addiction.
I just have two follow-up questions, like, the boots on the ground are amazing, I work with that, I work with Mayor, for staff.
Yep.
The cutting, the one
Make it quick, you got more people.
those positions would dramatically decrease this year.
Correct.
And detriment a lot of those services that are happening out on the ground.
No, I agree, and the OAC decreased those fundings.
And then the other piece is like Douglas County's great, the jail program, getting treatment in the jail, that's a model that should happen. But there's one county, Malano County has treatment in the jail, Douglas County's getting treatment in the jail, Jackson County. The rest of our county jails don't have treatment.
No, I agree, Curry County is a huge problem, Coos County is a huge problem, they don't have the treatment, in fact, Coos County doesn't have the timber resources to fund the ONC resources, and they have a whole pot of their jail, half their jail that they could be using, but they can't.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, but I fully agree with you, and we need more resources.
The work we did to repeal ballot measure 110 and the compromise we finally got across the finish line didn't deal with the drug pushing industry enough. It didn't deal with cartels coming over the southern California-Oregon border. We had a helpline that was set up. And to your dismay and our dismay, I think there was only like 70 calls, and the amount of money that was spent on that system. The point is this: we're always looking downriver instead of looking upriver. Greg Osborne said a minute ago, how did we get here? We are indifferent to legalizing drugs in the state of Oregon, and we see the consequences, and we always spend money instead of saying, how do we keep families together? How do we tell our kids marijuana is dangerous when you're young? How do we tell, it's not just tobacco, it's just not alcohol. We're not looking upriver. So I'll say a couple other comments for closing statements. Thank you, Rev.
Way to go.
So we got about 20 more minutes, so get to your questions, so we can get as many people through as possible. Next is 6021.
I don't know how you're gonna get to me though. Sorry, I just had neck surgery, so this is a little uncomfortable, but, hi you guys, my name is Michaela Hammerson. I'm the chairwoman of Umpqua Public Transportation District. And, so I wanted to let you know that I do oppose the transportation package that's coming up. It includes, increase to our payroll taxes and to our gas taxes. And these benefits from increased taxes are not going to come back to rural communities in really any sort of meaningful way. ODOT spent $2.7 million on a consultant up in Portland. They spent $127 million on the Rose Quarter project without breaking ground. That money would be life-changing for Douglas County for transportation and for roads. So you guys are in the minority party. What can you do to protect our communities from overtaxation without the benefits that the urban communities receive?
Hey, thank you for that question, and I cannot believe that this whole room did not just burst out in applause.
That's a good question.
That's a very good question, and it's a very tough thing to fight, and I think that, frankly, the transportation package has not been put into a bill yet, right? Those are suggestions, and of course, Senator Bruce Starr, who is a Republican, was asked to work on that as well. And I think think of it as a negotiation process. At this point, it is a negotiation. They do need 36 votes to pass a tax. And I know some people don't like the vote, but I'm telling you, it's important to vote because we can't afford to lose another seat, right? We're already one down, but there's, unfortunately, the Democrats also have one down right now too because there's some illness going on. So all we can do is continue to fight it at the committee level and on the House floor. Make them earn every dollar that they want to tax you. And then we really need to stand up as a group of citizens and say, look, we're done. We're not going to pay any more taxes.
Yeah.
It's just gone too far. I'm going to let these guys go on that.
Thank you, Ms. Hammerson, for bringing up the Rose Quarter.
Yes.
You know, that's a perfect example of how urban Oregon outvotes rural Oregon.
Yeah.
And I had a crazy idea when I was selected to go to the legislature after 6-year county commissioner, thinking I could do more than my part to close that gap. And I have to be honest, I've been unsuccessful. I'm never going to give up. But if the average taxpayer in Oregon understood the amount of bicycle bridges, no vehicles allowed, that have been spent in this state, it is staggering, and it makes our head spin. And I just officially, yesterday morning, decided that I'm not gonna support the new I-5 bridge, because it's gonna cost us $9 billion. I don't care what, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna have some very close friends on the Republican side that say, Court, we're gonna have to do this. I don't see how I could possibly budge on that. I don't care what Washington does, I don't care what the federal government does. That money, if we can even have part of it, has got to be spent in other places in Oregon. And yeah, we're battling with everything we've got to bring it to rural Oregon. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that real quick. On that note, what Court said about bicycle bridges, they wanted to do a bicycle bridge just north of Bandon, and just to study, again, we're talking studies, just to study to see if they wanted to do it would have cost over $2.2 million, which is just a colossal waste of money
ridiculous.
if you're thinking about something. And again, you talk about the I-5 bridge that Court brought up, that is a huge boondoggle. The cost of it has about tripled since they started the project. Not even counting ODOT employees, there's about 70 consultants on each side of the bridge, 70 in Oregon and 70 in Washington, that are all getting paid to work on this project that's now, years into the process, and they haven't even broken ground yet. So we talk about all these tax increases to fund this transportation package, when again, the money's there, it's just being wasted. Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, the 140 consultants, they are not taxpayer friends, I can assure you.
I appreciate the question. And what I really appreciate is how all of you help us do our jobs. I'll use Senate Bill 83 and the repeal of the wildfire maps as an example. It was the groundswell of support that forced, because even in January, Senator Golden was on the record, on the news down in Ashland, pounding away that we need the wildfire maps. And it took the groundswell of support from all of you to push back. When it comes to the transportation package and the 50% gas tax increase and all of those things, it's going to be all of you that we're going to need to be pushing back, so that when you submit your testimony, I can say, you need to read Ms. Hammerson's testimony right here, that said, and she is the chair of the transportation district down in Douglas County, and my goodness, this is how it's going to impact them. When it comes to the other half of my Senate district and Courts district, we have a situation where 101, I say often, is ODOT's job security, because from Port Orford to Brookings, it is constantly following into the ocean. And every single one of those projects is millions of dollars. And there is a ODOT yard in Port Orford. And so what really upset me when the director of ODOT, and they were moving forward with A, their $1 billion boondoggle, but B, saying, well, we're gonna have to start closing all of these rural satellite stations, ODOT yards, and we're gonna have to stop, go ahead and salting and clearing roads in eastern Oregon, and so your kids aren't gonna be able to get to school, was very frustrating, considering the waste and abuse of the agency. So, all of you need to help push back against what is happening with ODOT.
Michaela, I want to say thanks again for the question. I know we were up there on our stump talking about all the things, but I don't have a good answer for you. And I hate that, because what affects us down here is what I'm concerned about. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that the majority they will win in some form. All we can do is try to knock that form down where it hurts less down here. And I feel your pain. So let's go. Thanks.
6013.
My wife said, "Let me talk." You know how bad that is. I need to know how the water bill is going, and the reason it's coming up is the insanity, and this is one of the insanity ones. They want to start taxing us for snow, they want to start taxing us for the river water, they want to start taxing us for the water coming out of our wells. Well, it just can't happen. I mean, the insanity at Salem of growing the government, spending billions, wasting billions, raising our taxes so that they have to start charging us water for water coming out of our wells.
Thank you, Richard. It's crazy. We have all but killed, in the Senate side, killed the 70 series, we call them. Senator Golden had a 70 series of bills, 74, 75, 76, 78, that was going after private property rights, water rights, and so on. We've all but killed all of those bills. But I know there was something going on over in the House. I just want to say, again, it's all of you that helped do that. Because they have the supermajority. They can pass whatever the hell they want, including taxes.
I want to say on the House side, the bills,
3919, I don't remember them all, of course.
I'll just tell you right now, the reason those bills were killed was because of the public input. I mean, my phone literally blew up on a Saturday and Sunday, and I had plenty of input. And of course, one of our Republican House reps was on the bill, and I made a phone call to him on Sunday. I said, you need to pull this crap away. So, I'll call it peer pressure, community support, whatever you want to call it. It matters. If you have issues, you should be bringing them up to us. We're very easy to get hold of.
There's a lot of bad ideas that come out of Salem, and every once in a while, there's an idea that's bad enough that it pisses off about 80% of the population. And those are things like putting meters on private water wells and things like the fire map. And any one testimony doesn't really do anything, but when everyone writes in that's mad about something, it does have an effect. So don't think we don't listen to you. I mean, even if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, make sure you write your representative and let them know how you feel about any number of issues.
Real quick, so I'm a crazy person that reads every bill that's in every committee every weekend for the upcoming week. And then I put together a bills of concern and bills to support, and I send it out to the Republican PCPs within the Senate district, and then also to the Oregon Republican Party, and then they send it out to the county PCPs, and we've had a lot more engagement across the state because of it, and I'm grateful for it. So I'm not only grateful for our voices here, but also across the state and helping us stop those bills.
So I want to just add one bill, and that's, if you would please remember this, 1154. I think it's getting a little momentum in the Senate, I'm not sure. But basically, if you own a well and it's aged, you're gonna have to decommission that well and put in a new one. That's how bad this bill is. And the cost of decommissioning your old well, is unbelievable, and there's no companies that can do it, you can't do it yourself. So just remember that bill, I think we can push back on it, but a lot of people in rural Oregon that are watching this are very
Crazy.
concerned. It's gonna be tremendously expensive.
So we pushed back on the 154. It was referred to rules without recommendation.
Well, it might die.
I'm killing the bill. I'm telling you.
Well, that's the best news I've had in 3 days.
All right.
Please go on.
All right,
Amen.
We've only got time for a couple more, so next one is 6019.
Good evening, thank you. I'm happy to hear people talk about water, because that's one of the issues that I want to talk about, particularly the World Water and Waste Disposal Assistance Program. Now, this is a federal program facilitated through the USDA. It provides funding for clean and safe water, as well as proper water disposal for rural communities. I am a rural community property owner and taxpayer, so this assistance program could potentially impact me and provide me with help. Now, in February, through the continuing resolution passed by Republicans in the United States Congress, the Rural Water and Waste Disposal Program was cut by 20%. So my questions to you are, what, if any, concrete steps have you taken to address the budget shortfall? Additionally, have you reached out to your colleagues in Congress to tell them that these cuts will adversely impact the rural citizens that you represent? Thank you.
Good job.
So no, the short answer is no, I have not reached out to my congressional delegation about that. We have discussed many of other things. I do want to say, we have one Republican congressman with Congressman Vince. I had the privilege to serve with him in the legislature before he was a congressman. We were both the co-chairs in the House and on the Joint Committee on Carbon Reduction. Brilliant man, in a fantastic position on natural resources. But at one point, and I'm a state senator, not a federal, but at what point are we going to stop? Especially, we need to deal with it at the state level as well. Can't be everything everywhere. But we're $36 trillion in debt. What's the number? Is 40 trillion gonna be okay? Is 50 trillion gonna be okay? And so at some point, there needs to be a curtailment. I think that I'm worried about the curtailment that's gonna come back that we're gonna need. And I truly believe, especially with Congressman Vince and his understanding, that we'll have those wildfire positions that we need. I am a big supporter of the Head Start programs and First Step programs, and so I believe that we know that those investments are critically important. Kids don't get to choose their parents, but when it comes to 20% cut in this water funding, unfortunately, no, that's not on my list at this time. But I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, and I will make a note of it.
Can I just follow up with one thing? We keep talking about budget shortfalls, and what are the solutions? I would say taxing billionaires is a solution.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the last question, probably, maybe two if we're lucky, but, there's not that many billionaires.
Yeah.
Certainly
Yeah.
not enough billionaires to make up the difference we have here, but let's just go on to something.
If I can just add, I can't help it. Yeah, Oregon is losing because of the taxes in the state. We are in the top 10 taxed states in the country. Oregon is losing the individuals that employ individuals. And they are leaving Oregon. And at some point, we are going to run out of their money that are paying taxes and the individuals that they are paying because they won't have jobs. So,
Yep.
I
We
mean,
don't tax them.
no, because they're leaving
No,
the state.
they're gone.
Yes, we do tax them.
They're adios.
Corporate, I'm talking about state and local.
Let's move on to the other question.
Yeah.
All right, we got a little-
We've lost more
We got
people
hard
than
stop
gained
at
this
7:30.
last year.
This will be the last question. 6008.
Okay, so this goes back down to, House Bill 2050, right? Between revisions 2050-6 and 2050-7, so it's the bill that would make, military retirement, exempt from taxes if you have a service-connected disability. Well, between 2050-6 and 2050-7, the definition of disabled veteran changed, right? They changed from the term given in ORS 408.225, which is anybody that has a disability rating from the VA, to someone that has a total disability rating from the VA at 100%, right? And that number comes down to, of all ratings, within the United, or in Oregon, from the numbers that I can kind of figure out, 0.08% of the veterans in Oregon fall into that category. And that's total veterans that are retirees with the service-connected disability. 0.08%, but all of a sudden they made it where it was 100% service-connected, which 100% service-connected, from the numbers I was able to figure out, there's only 1,361 retirees in the state of Oregon. 90% below is 2,157, right? So why all of a sudden did it go from any service-connected disability with a retiree, where there are very few of us, to somebody with 100% service-connected, where there's only
You have a man on the committee right there.
1,361.
So that bill, yes, did come through my committee, and how it was explained to us was simply this. So we keep talking about budget shortfalls, everyone wants more money for every project under the sun. And at the end of the day, the conversation, I can't remember who was actually carrying the bill, but by reducing the amount of people that were covered under that bill, basically made a low enough financial impact to where they actually thought the bill could pass. I would love to write off taxes for every disabled veteran, and I think that would be fantastic, but at the end of the day, if it's gonna cost the state of Oregon $200 million, they're not gonna pass it. But if we just cover 100% disabled, it might only cost them $20 million, so maybe it has a chance. At the end of the day, we have to make, again, this wasn't me on the bill, but between the debate of whoever was carrying the bill and the majority party, they have to have a conversation of what number is everyone comfortable with that we think we can actually get this bill across the finish line. Because once you pass a bill from committee, it has to go in front of Ways and Means, where they decide if they can actually fund that project that you just passed out of committee. And in this case, even the way the bill is written now, that I can tell you're not very happy with, and neither am I, but even now, I'm not sure that bill is actually gonna pass, because it's still gonna have a financial impact to the state of Oregon, and the majority party still wants those tax dollars.
And
So,
it still has to get through, now it's gone through the House committee, his committee, the veterans, but now it's in revenue, has to have that same hearing all over again, before it can even get to these things.
Okay, with that.
Yeah, majority
yeah,
committee
your
or
last
majority
question.
party.
I think we all would like to close. Good, just real quick, really start.
oh yeah, I'll be real quick, just thanks for coming out. I know some of these things are, you know, again, everyone has their own pet project, everyone has their own interests that they're looking out for. And that's why we do these things, we want to learn and find out what issues are closest to your hearts. So I feel grateful to be here, and thanks for coming out and sharing, especially those who are respectful. I appreciate that as well. So thanks so much. It's good to see you.
Question back here a bit ago on housing. We are starting to make some progress. House Bill 2316, I testified with Kevin Mannix, who sponsored the bill, and Governor Kotek. I don't agree with her on everything, but she has done a good job on housing. And this bill, 2316, if you want to support it and understand it, there's a lot of unused developable land that the state owns. And it's honestly about, almost 1,000 acres scattered around the state. I think that bill is gonna go. Keep your fingers crossed. Back to land use real quickly. It's such a great system. Senate Bill 100, put together 52 years ago, 1972. It's so good that not one of the other 49 states wanted to duplicate it, not even close. That's what it's done to development in Oregon. When it comes to, as Rip Scarlatos mentioned, the funding, the budgets, all the projects we need to take care of, it's not taxes. It has to come from timber harvest. You can take every mill in Washington and Oregon, combine them, run them 24/7. You couldn't possibly harvest or produce the lumber as fast as it grows here. This natural resource, renewable resource we have, is being burned to the ground.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
if you want to support schools, you want to support drug treatment centers, the money is there. We've got to push back against the radical environmentalists. We're all environmentalists. I raised my kids in a roadless area. We're all environmentalists, but until we understand, as my cousin Chris Boyce says, when he first became commissioner, I'm gonna figure a way that Oregon can earn instead of burn the timber. We haven't been able to
Amen.
move forward on that since. It's disgraceful and it's just.
It's
heartbreaking.
stupid.
We can do better. Thank you, that's all.
Okay.
So, I really appreciate all of you coming out. We are not going to always agree, but at least we can agree to disagree sometimes. I mean, for the most part, in the legislature, 97% of the time, probably, we agree. But it's the hard ones that we don't. And really, when you drill down on those hard ones, what works in Portland doesn't work in Port Orford, okay? And it's frustrating because I don't think Portland legislators should be telling Roseburg farmers what they should be doing with their damn land.
Amen.
And so that is where we really start grinding. But when it comes to the addiction crisis, I'm right there with you because that is similar in Portland as it is in Port Orford. The problem is they have more services up there than we do it down here. But let's face it, we live here because it's a beautiful place to be. So I hope that as we move forward, we can agree to disagree on some things and that we can embrace the things that we can agree on and work together to get those done, because I need your voices on those as well in order to get the resources to our communities that need them. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Keep mine short as well. First off, I want to thank our staff for being here, my chief of staff, my legislative assistant in the back. Again, I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Trip, for running the microphone. And thank you, Chief Klotzstein, for being here. I think it's important that we have law enforcement representatives as well. I know we didn't get to all your questions, and I'm sorry. We could have, this meeting could literally go on for 6 hours, and we probably still have questions. I want you guys to leave here on a positive note, and I want this to be. We'll have more of these meetings, and we're even doing things now. I'm doing a podcast actually, and we're going to be talking about things. We are all Douglas County residents, or close to it. This shouldn't be about Democrats versus Republicans. What this should be about is the things that face us daily. And that's how I approach politics, right? And of course I'm conservative. Of course I have conservative values. There's a platform that I'm gonna always follow. I'm not gonna change on those things. But when it comes to health, when it comes to the citizens, you guys put us here. And you put us here to represent you. That doesn't mean that I agree with every single thing, but I think we probably agree with a lot more, especially rural Oregon. If you follow me online or you follow me on all this, you'll find in all of my committees, I battle it out with I'll just be honest, it is the Democrats, but I battle it out with them because they're willing to do things in urban Oregon that they're not willing to do in southern Oregon. And that is not okay. We need to be treated just as well as other parts of the state. And that is my goal. And so long as you guys keep me here, that's what you'll you will have a voice. And I might add too, Douglas County's never been more represented than they are right now. I'm actually the whip for the Republican Party. David is the vice chair, or vice deputy, I guess, deputy leader of the Senate. You have two voices in leadership, and of course, Alec, everybody goes Alec. And then you got the voice for radio over there on the end. I mean, they're hearing.
I thought it was the face for radio.
Listen, whatever I get. I'm going a little long, but they are hearing us, okay? They really are. And I think a lot of good things can come from this. I'm not gonna leave this on a bad note. I think there are good things to happen here. So let's just all work together. Let's put our political differences behind us and do the right thing for our communities. That's my goal. And thank you guys all for coming tonight. And I'm always available for questions, as we all are. You can catch me online. You can get my phone number is probably on every bathroom wall in the state. So, I am very transparent, and I always will be. So I don't hide from questions. I don't hide from that stuff. So if you guys need an answer, or if you want just to state an opinion, I have staff that handles a lot of emails. She gets sometimes she'll get 500 emails a day. I mean, it's crazy the stuff that we do. And we haven't even really talked about the gun bills tonight to any degree. I mean, thank God we got Al now because he's the gun guy. But yeah, well, that was me in 23. I was the guy fighting. Now I turn that all over to my colleague here. So anyway, with that, please drive safe, travel home safe, and thank you. We'll do this again.
And have a blessed.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.